da-da-da, and da-da-da, da-da-da. So that's our secret lore theme. We're going to have some jazz playing in there now, I think. So as I said earlier this season, there's a kind of a running theme to the season. That's the British Men of Letters. And along with that, there is a secret society in Britain that we are leading up to, and that's the Golden Dawn. And we're not quite there yet. We're still talking about another secret society because there's just so many of them at this time. Victorians loved a secret society. And we're going to talk about one of the precursors to the Golden Dawn who produced some of their members, and that's the HB of L. And you had to become a member of the HB of L to learn what that meant. But it supposedly stood for the Hermetic Brotherhood of Luxor, right? The exact date of founding is unknown because it's a secret society, but it was sometime around 1884 by three guys: Max Theon, Peter Davidson, and Thomas H. Burgoyne. None of these are their real names. Maybe Peter Davidson's. But so Max Theon had many aliases, and he taught a sex magic via a combination of Kabbalistic and Vedic elements blended into a cosmic philosophy. He was possibly the son of a Warsaw rabbi who was a leader in the Frankist Reformation, sect known for their orgiastic sex rites. Burgoyne was likely a name assumed by Thomas Henry Dalton, who had been imprisoned in Leeds, England in 1883 on charges of fraud. After he was released from prison, he met up with his Scottish Mason friend, Peter. So Peter Davidson was a Scottish fiddle maker. He and Thomas went to America to try and found a community for the HB of L. They wanted to go to California, but that was too expensive. Then they wanted to go to Florida, but that didn't work. So Peter ended up in Georgia, where he became known for his herbal elixirs and his magic mirrors. The three of them adapted Pascal Beverly Randolph's The Mysteries of Eros and Eulis, with more emphasis on sex magic than was in that book, to form the curriculum of the HB of L, which was kind of a mail order secret society that was open to anyone who was prepared to submit their horoscope and a photograph, which the photograph would get sent back. But this is 1880s. That seems like an ask, right? You've got to have the money to have a photograph and one that you can part with, right? And, and you're going to be all looking all serious and shit in it. And we're going to be like, look, man, I had to stand there for 30 minutes. I'm much happier than this. Like, please, like, just don't. Or you can send them a spirit photograph photo. Like, that was kind of taken off the time. Anyways, so you could be denied if your horoscope wasn't quite right. But other than that, if you got the mail order course, the student got an assigned teacher who was only supposed to be a helper, as you had to go to another dimension to meet the real masters. Though they are known as the Hermetic Brotherhood of Luxor, they really have little to do with Egypt. They did become known for being opposed to the Eastern thought of the Theosophists and Madame Blavatsky. Them and Madame Blavatsky were having some serious, she fought with everybody, but she was fighting with them specifically. And they started proclaiming themselves to be a true Hermetic Western occult society. And the way they did it doesn't paint them that well under today's light, because they were very okay, I'm just going to put it this way. So their first advertisement that was in an 1884 edition of this Hermetic book said, "Students of the occult science, searchers after truth, and theosophists who may have been disappointed in their expectations of sublime wisdom being freely dispensed by Hindu Mahatmas are cordially invited to send in their names to the editors of this work." So they're specifically going after them, but also that you didn't need to put the Hindu part in there, but they did. So they continue on in an editorial for the Occult magazine, which they published. Thomas said, "There are many pathways that may lead to the same mountain summit. So there are many methods of occult training exactly suitable to different nationalities, by which the same soul powers may be evolved in the best manner. Yoga training as practiced in India is totally unfitted for Western people residing in our colder climates. European habit of thought, the influence of past generations of Christian sway, and everything belonging to the civilization of the West has powerfully assisted in making the European nations the very opposite in thought, word, and deed to those of far off Hindustan, which is what they called India. So beyond just like the Indian racism there also just the note that you were too cold in England to do yoga, which that may be not wrong.
Right.
Maybe it is too cold in England to be doing yoga.
They didn't have HVAC then. I mean, I don't know.
Right. So in their charter that was signed by Max Theon, Grand Master Pro Temp of the Exterior Circle, included some of the following. We recognize the external existence of the great cause of light, the invisible center whose vibrating soul, gloriously radiant, is a living breath, the vital principle of all that exists and will ever exist. It is from this divine summit that goes forth the invisible power which binds the vast universe in a harmonious whole. By the way, I was dictating some of this from a book, and the dictation thought I wrote harmonious whole with an H, which is very different than the harmonious whole I think they were talking about with the hua.
The WH.
Whole, yes. Whole. Also in the charter, they said whole. Remember, not Courtney Love's band, but a whole. So remember, we teach freely without reservation, anyone worthy of instruction. Like, we'll teach anybody, but they have to be worthy of instruction.
Right.
And their last line of their charter said, finally, the members have full freedom of thought and judgment. By no means may one member be disrespectful towards members of other religious beliefs or impose his own convictions on others. So we appreciate this code of conduct that was in here like circa 1884, but it's nice to know like that's always been around with certain groups, right? So there were 2 HBFL lodges in America, one in Osceola, Florida, and the other in Rochester, New York, both which were home to a lot of spiritualist-like people. The New York lodge became run by a lady named Josephine Cables, who was an occultist, writer, lecturer, and were previously a secretary of the Theosophical Society. All right, so the rules for occult training. So if you want to join the HBFL, you've got to follow their rules. And the first one, the neophyte must abstain from smoking, the use of intoxicants, flesh eating, etc., which is what they called not being a vegetarian.
I was like, yes, abstain from flesh eating, please.
Yes, in general, I would say flesh eating is bad. But so the diet must be wholesome and strictly vegetarian in nature. And this was kind of big with Victorian spirit, people who were into being spiritual, not necessarily spiritualist, but the new age, Victorian new age, like they're really being into vegetarians, like Anna Kingford, right? So number 2, each morning or as often as possible, the neophyte must take a cold bath. According as a natural constitution is robust or delicate, when the bath is not convenient, the body must be well rubbed with a coarse, wet towel. So cold plunge.
That's what I was about to say. I'm like, we got vegans that cold plunge.
Vegans that cold plunge. Things never fucking change. All right, number 3, during the day, whether engaged in business or otherwise, there must be a strong systemic effort made to check the slightest evil thought, word, or deed, and gossip under all circumstances must be completely prohibited. So no gossip, people. In fact, the neophyte, while pleasantly performing the necessary duties of life, must cultivate a quiet, calm, reserved, self-possessed state of mind and endeavor to his utmost to hold and check grief, joy, surprise, pleasure, or pain. For be it remembered that the passions and sensations of the body are each and all but pretty subordinate states, or in other words, centers of occult force, which will ever strive to usurp the imperial rule of the true monarch, the human will. So they want you to not have any emotions at all throughout the day because you've got to harness your will. So you've got to be super calm. No gossip either. So number 4, so they got to get some control. Then number 5, you get some incense. And then every day you've got to gaze into a mirror and chant an incantation and try and become one with the mirror so you can penetrate the astral. Yep. And then at night every day, actually, I really like this one. Relax in an easy chair or recline on a couch. Done. It was done right there. But you had to do stuff while you're on it. Okay. So while you're on there, you're supposed to be formulating mental or metaphysical objects in your brain and then try and project them externally onto the ceiling. He may also find much benefit from a psychic point of view if he tries to reproduce any of the objects seen during the day. This is the grand secret of penetrating the astrolight of the past by the pathway that leads to the secrets of the astrolight. So think about something that you saw during the day, like you saw an orange, and then you try and like remember that orange and like put it on your ceiling and then try and make that orange like astral project itself. And then if you can do that, then you can master your way to the past, and then you can master time travel.
Huh.
Yeah. And so the last rule of the occult training, the moral tone, this is why I don't think I might be able to pass this one. The moral tone of the neophyte's life must be pure, spotless, and unholy by selfish desires. Especially must all sexual relations be carefully guarded and only participated in after due thought and a careful study of the ansiretic arcana. It is this very fatal state of sex that has ruined thousands of otherwise promising inspirants for occult initiation. Thousands of them. Thousands of them have been ruined. So that arcanum sounds hella racist when you read it. I'll just tell you that. You don't have to read it for yourself. And it's mainly twin flame nonsense about soulmates, some terrible, terrible advice about when women can get pregnant. Do not use that as a guide. No. And also that unhealthy women were unfit mothers. Cool, guys. And we don't have time to go through their initiation rites, and they have different ones for self and public. They're not that exciting. They're mainly about like having a white cloth and some lamps. They don't even get dressed up good. They do legit use this following phrase, which shows how hard they tried. Dearly beloved, this man or woman, as a case, may be having entered by the eastern gate, now humbly supplicates at the foot of the sacred altar to be admitted as a brother or sister to the ranks of our ancient and noble order of the HBOL. I therefore circularly command all of you who are now present, if anyone know any just cause or impediment why this man or woman should not be admitted, that you openly declare it now or forever hold your peace.
So it's like a wedding, but also they're letting people call out and say, nah, don't come in.
Exactly. Fun, right? Fun. So initiates swore to follow the 7 principal rules of the HBOL, which reiterated the rules for occult trading and included that the fee for admission and initiation as a probationary candidate is $5 and the annual subscription membership is $1.25, which must be paid by the members in America to the treasurer of the Central Council. There is no further charge except for further initiation, which can only take place at long intervals, and no case any initiation fee more than $5. All instruction, teaching, and other information must be given by either teachers or members for free of charge. So at least there's some money caps on there, right? Okay, and finally, the sex magic. I promise you the sex magic. And it should be more interesting and fun than this, but these guys were so fucking boring. Thomas warned that the power of sexual love never be used for selfish purposes. Boo! And the purpose of sex magic was the evolution of powers in the unborn child and the elaboration of social and domestic bliss in the married state. So the full initiation was only for married people. Bachelors could only learn theoretically. And they just wanted to create these children who were higher up on the human evolutionary ladder by banging while doing this sex magic, right? Because they're like, you're creating all this divine energy and then like you poof it out and you make like a magic baby, right? Then they have
I don't think they said magic baby, did they?
No, but that's what they were thinking. It's like an ethereal child or some bullshit like that. I don't know what they call it. After an ecstatic blending of spirit. Ugh. So in their book, they have the mystery of the Eros, and there's important items for the sex mysteries. But some sad things. They let you know that an evil desire or wish during the excitement of sexual intercourse directed against the male by the female or vice versa will magnetically poison and result in innumerable disorders, generally of a sexual nature. So don't do that.
Don't think bad thoughts during sex.
Don't have evil desires or wishes while you're fucking, okay? But a good and benevolent desire expressed in a tender and earnest loving spirit will magnetically strengthen the sexual organisms and benefit the person. So do think good and benevolent desires, right? But an evil thought or desire, if projected against any person during the supreme moment, not as the one you're having sex with, during the supreme moment of sexual excitement, will have the most evil effect upon the one against whom directed. But at the same time, remember that every desire, when it has completed its orbit, returns to the source from which it emanated. Consequently, those who are guilty of such diabolical practices reap with interest all the evil that they have sown. So going in the, if you, what you dole out, it's karma, right? Yeah. It's going to come back.
Yeah.
But you can do it. But just know it's going to come back, but you can do it. But you can't do a good or benevolent wish for yourself or another person. That doesn't work.
That's lame. You can only do evil that'll come back on you. You can't do good that'll come back on you.
You can't do good because you cannot penetrate that high state of good. So the student may ask why an evil desire may have more effect during the excitement of sexual intercourse than at any other times. The answer is because the power and potency of all magical operations of the human will below a certain plan of development depends on the degree of the excitement of the soul at the moment of projecting the will. And we know that sexual passion is by far the most intensely powerful of the human organism, blah, blah, blah. So it's like, you can't smoke, you can't drink, you can only fuck if you're married, and you can't do evil. What kind of cult is this? This is a lame ass cult. All right. So Max ends up marrying a Scottish medium named Mary Ware, and they go off and settle in Algeria. Thomas ends up in Monterey, California, where he publishes a reboot of these teachings, and that book's authorship has much been debated. He maybe gets another persona, like adapts another identity and marries the woman who is the creator of harmonial gymnastics and a pioneer in westernizing yoga. Pete Davidson went on to SNL. So it has been rumored that Peter Davidson's family burned all his manuscripts. But someone wrote the following comment on a blog, and we're going to end this today with this just because it's spicy. I don't know if this is true. This is from the internet. I'm just going to read it. Peter Davidson is my great-great-grandfather. Richard Davidson kept all the books handed down through the years away from family members. Sad to say, but he personally told me that our own family members were stealing antiques, books, and other items from the old house. 23 years before Richard Davidson died, he gave me all the old books that had been hidden for over 100 years. Yes, I have a complete library of Peter Davidson's notes, the books he wrote, and also thousands of rare books that he brought from Scotland. Richard Davidson was a fine man, but Peter Davidson, even though he was very smart, was a follower of the occult. His books made it clear what he believed. I have visited the original Paradise location where Peter Davidson settled with his family. I would purchase it from the owner, but I have no desire to do so because the man so many worship was a fraud. The secret societies he belonged to were so immoral, unethical, and something that even our modern day society would see as wrong. The only people interested in his work are the New Age followers, quote unquote, New Age followers in California. So now you know the truth, read the facts, and stop honoring a man who was a false teacher. Damn, that's some spicy shit. If that guy was true and that was really his great grandfather, to be like he was a fraud and all his shit was real immoral. But yeah, there's some stuff in there that sounds pretty racist. Some stuff that sounds like kind of eugenicsy, but you can dive further into that if you want to, or you could just go find other ways to have sex magic, and I encourage you to do so. Or don't have sex magic at all. I also encourage you not to do that. We don't tell you what to do here. This is a podcast. All right. So, so coming out of sex magic land.
Devil's Trap Podcast is a Don't Get It production. Meow.
Devil's Trap Podcast is part of the Ship It Studios podcast network. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Devil's Trap Podcast. You can follow us on Instagram at Devil's Trap Podcast, Twitter at Devil's Trap Pod, or you can email us at devilstrap@devilstrappodcast.com. Don't forget to subscribe, leave reviews, and share with all your friends. We're at all your favorite podcast outlets and at devilstrappodcast.com. I'm Babe. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.